Second segment of our live show tonight, I am joined by the man, the myth, Mr. Bill Roth.
Hello, Hokies. How's everyone tonight? Thank you guys for having me. Thank you, Grayson.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. For those of you who do not know Bill Roth is a radio and television broadcaster, podcaster, shout out Level 7 podcast that he just started with his on-radio host, Mike Burnup. And he is back as the current voice of the Virginia Tech Hokie football team. And we are very, very excited about that. He was also inducted into the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame in 2013. And the thing that we're most excited about right now, and this hits home for me, is Bill Roth has spearheaded the sports media and analytics department at Virginia Tech. And what I want to do is, if you are a part of that program right now and you are in the building, please stand up and be recognized. I know there's a lot of y'all. Make some noise for these students right now. Bill, I got to say, it's an honor to be here with you this evening. First off, I got to ask, how are you?
I'm great. Following Bud Foster is a tough assignment.
That is a tough assignment.
That was amazing.
That was a lot of fun. How was summer 2022? How's Florida? Any fun vacations?
Florida was good. Went to Madrid, Spain. It was my first trip to Spain. And I'm ready to go back.
Spain?
Real Madrid beat Liverpool while we were there. I was in downtown Madrid all night long. They were partying, shooting flare guns, turning over cars. It was my first ever European soccer riot. But it was great.
I know. I've actually experienced one of those in 2006.
Where'd you go?
I was in Paris with my family, and I think France had just beaten like Portugal to advance to the final, and
They won the World Cup that year, yeah.
I saw a lot of things that a rising fifth grader should not have seen. Yeah, but it was fun. I survived, so that's
But you
cool.
know what's interesting is, Real Madrid is clearly the most popular team in the world.
Right.
Like, Real Madrid has more social media followers on Instagram. Our kids in class know this, right? They have more social media followers on their various sites than every NFL team combined. But their fan base reminds me a lot of Tech's.
In what capacity?
The passion, they sing. They don't sing the national anthem before they play. They sing Hala Madrid, which is their song, right? And the people cry. And it's kind of the same thing. We have traditions, whether it's Enter Sandman and the Alma Mater and the fight song and Skipper. And we do those things here, and it just means so much to our fans. They just have a couple 100 million of them. and so they do well, obviously, but there's great pressure on their coaches. They demand winning, and it reminded me a lot of our fan base, too.
Absolutely. So let's get down to what everyone here wants to know. Like I mentioned,
we're going to beat Boston College.
That's great.
That's what you want to know?
That's great. Now, we're going to get to that.
All right.
You're back in the booth with Mike Burnap.
Yes.
After a 6-year hiatus, that's what we'll call it, I guess. What made you decide to come back and take that responsibility as being the voice of the Virginia Tech Hokies again?
Well, it was the day, I see Hunter Couture's in the back. We were in Miami, and I was sitting in the stands with Witt, and he asked.
All right. And you said yes immediately, or did you have to think about it?
Well, there was more to it. He said, "Were you interested?"
All right.
So when was that game? Do you remember that game? Darius Maddox had a big shot.
Let's go.
His first of 2 game winners. One in Brooklyn.
Yep.
But he had one earlier in Coral Gables.
Right.
Yep.
So if it isn't already blatantly obvious, you're a workhorse. I'm going to use last weekend as an example. You teach your classes Monday through Thursday. Then you're on a flight out to Old Dominion on Friday to call that game. And the following day, you're calling a game on television at the Dukes Mayo Classic in Charlotte, North Carolina. How do you manage to balance a schedule like that? What keeps you going?
Well, I'm fortunate to have great students here at Tech who are great motivators. And I enjoy being around them, and my motivation for the program is almost identical to what Bud talked about when he sat here, about giving kids an opportunity, pushing them, working with them. And Tech, from Tim Sands to Dean Belmonte to our recent department head, Bob Denton, they've invested so much money in our facilities, and these students are so committed to our program, it's easy. When you're around Brent Pry, it's easy to be really committed to the football team. And Bud is right. We have the guy who fits. We have the guy. I'll give you two quick examples. Who was here this year or even last night for Tech Talk Live?
I was.
True, okay.
Pat Miller.
Okay.
Sheldon Moss in the back, I see.
Right. Who is the last person to leave?
Brent Pry.
Everything's gone. All the people are gone. He makes sure and thanks every single person in the room. Yep. And that is, you don't fake that. Right. I mean, there are things to do if you're the head football coach at Virginia Tech and you just lost to Old Dominion and you're playing BC on a Saturday night. There are things to do to get ready for the game. Shaking every single person's hand here isn't going to help us on Saturday. But it's who he is. And he wanted to thank every single person for coming. And that meant a lot to everybody here. Today, he met our very new radio engineer for the very first time. Same type of thing. I'm so glad you're on our team. Right. And that means so much. And he fits. We know, like everybody in this room knows, Brian Kelly does not fit at LSU. Am I right?
Fake accents. Not cool.
They know that, right? But they're willing, it's whatever, right? I don't know where he would fit. But we've got the right coach. And Bud's right. It's going to take a while. So anyway, to answer your question, it is impossible not to be motivated being around Brent Pry.
So it's not a secret that in 2015 you leave Blacksburg, which we were all very, very sad about in that moment, to pursue an opportunity as the voice of the UCLA Bruins.
Right.
You go out to Los Angeles, which is where I currently live, for those of you who do not know that. For what you have told me, I don't even think you lived there an entire year. Is that right? Or just
11 months, yeah.
Okay.
10, 11 months. Yeah.
So I'm always curious for the people who leave LA, what was your "this place isn't for me" moment? Because I've had a few of those, but now I'm having fun.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you one thing. UCLA couldn't do this. They couldn't get a bunch of their fans out to do something like this because it would cost $175 to park. I don't know. It just wasn't right. They're great people. In fact, I've heard from several UCLA fans on Friday night. They tweeted and DM'd me and a couple of text messages. Congratulations. We're great. It's so great to hear you back on the air where you belong, that kind of thing. They don't have to do that. And that means a lot to me. We're on good terms. It's a great program. We can learn a lot from them, and they can learn a lot from us. We can do things they can't do, and vice versa. It's an amazing school, but so are we. It just wasn't the right fit for me. But everyone should applaud the way they run their program, just like their fans applaud the way we run ours.
Absolutely. We're glad you're home, obviously. And we just discussed your time calling games on television. You've called games on television as well. I'm curious because I never got the chance to take this class. So in your play-by-play class,
right,
in the sports media and analytics program, what is the primary focus? What are the challenges and differences between calling games on television and on the radio?
Television, you provide the caption for the picture. And on radio, you're describing everything as if it's a blank canvas. One thing I try to do on television is I always ask the athletics communications people, What is the one thing that announcers say about your team or your school that drives your fans crazy? Because I don't want to do it. I don't want to be that guy that mispronounces VA Tech. You know what I'm talking about? What I try to do is I try to find a little something that only an alumnus of that school would know. So I say, I fill them in on what a rail is at Tots. And I say, what is that at Rhode Island? You know what it is at Rhode Island? If they win a game, you get cheese fries at this place on the Serengeti River, something like that. I have it written down. And so I say that on the air on a Rhode Island game, and then like, oh my God, that guy loves the Rhode Island Rams. No, you know something about it because you try to communicate with the people. In the play-by-play class where we have some people here tonight who have taken or will be taking that class, we want to get them ready. We want to get them ready so that they can go to our ACC Network Extra or ACC Network coverage. So in the last couple of years, we've had students like Jake Lyman and
Stud.
And we've had people like Kevin DiDomenico who've gone from our play-by-play class up to ACC Network, and then someone like Evan Hughes who wins the Jim Nantz Award, which is essentially the Heisman Trophy of broadcasting. And we start, to answer your question, we start in that play-by-play class kind of with the basics.
So since I left Virginia Tech in 2018, SMA has grown exponentially. What has gone into making the program here just as big, competitive, and special as places like your alma mater, Syracuse, Northwestern, and the like?
Well, we have great students that could have gone to Northwestern or Syracuse or, I'm looking around. Yeah, and they pick Virginia Tech. So we work really hard. You know, there's parents that are paying tuition, right? And they want to make sure that their child gets a great education, and more than that, has the skills to enter a competitive field. And most of it is not broadcasting. It's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, whether you want to be a writer or a blogger or the production people or graphic artists. No matter what it is, I tell everybody, Bud has his lunch Bud has the lunch pail. We have the toolbox. I say, if someone asks you, can you do this? I want the answer to be yes. So if Riley Wyant gets a call from Channel 12 NBC in Richmond and says, can you do news? The answer is?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, Bill, real quick question.
Yeah.
Are we doing better right now than Riley and I did that day in class when we got an F?
You got a C.
Oh, well, a C isn't an A, so, but yeah, I think we are.
Our athletes go to class at Virginia Tech. I would like to say that we have a lot of student athletes, and they are there, and we hold them accountable just like every other student.
So you often compared the students in SMA to our student athletes here at Virginia Tech. You literally just did that. They have resources like the studio in the Moss Arts Center, the media lab, the library, the toolbox, which I just learned about, and plenty of other outlets and opportunities to, as you like to say, get shots up, which essentially means practice their craft. You've sold the dream to some incredibly talented individuals over the years. What do you tell these high school prospects who come here and they're honestly considering Virginia Tech against the big dogs like Syracuse, Northwestern, what have it? And how has that pitch changed from 2015 to now?
We're getting some of the most talented high school kids to come to Tech. And I can say names. Unlike the football coaches that can't talk about the 100 kids that are in town tonight, or if not tonight, tomorrow night for the game, I can talk about kids. So there is a kid. He's amazing. I think he could be an amazing student at Tech. His name is Ryan Martin. He is from New England. He has been interning in New England. He goes to every Patriots press conference. He has asked Bill Belichick questions in his press conference, and he gets them answered because they're well phrased and he's articulate. and he's coming down with his parents for the Georgia Tech game, and we're going to treat him like because he's a 5-star recruit in what I do. So we're recruiting kids, and we're going to get him with Riley for the weekend. No, we're going to get him with all our kids. The way it works is at Carter's here, we did it, and Kyle, and I hang out with mom and dad, and we send the high school kids out with our students, and they get to experience what being a Hokie is about. And sometimes they come, and sometimes they don't.
So I have a question. When you say talk about to start a question, what happens?
We have an air horn.
So what constitutes
You have to ask a question. If you say, has anyone ever seen the NBA interviews, for example, Greg Popovich between the third and the fourth quarter? You've seen those interviews, right? If you go to Greg Popovich and say, can you talk about what happened in the third quarter? You know what his answer is? No. No. But if you ask him a question, he'll answer. And so we work a lot on things like that. You have 5 or 6 seconds to ask a question. If you're ever watching someone do an interview and they're running on and on, they have no idea what they're going to ask. Ask a question. People aren't watching the game to hear us. They want to hear from Bud Foster. They want to hear from Coach Saban. So the key is to ask a very good question and make it quick.
I'm working on that part.
You have 5 seconds. Ready? Go.
Let's look ahead to tomorrow. Big matchup against Boston College. Eagles in the rain. You're putting the pressure on.
Yeah.
Last time we played the Eagles in the rain under the lights of Lane Stadium, that didn't go so well. You were there. Hey, how do you feel about tomorrow? Honestly.
I think that if the Hokies can get to Djokovic, and they, if you look back at last week's game, they got good pressure on the ODU quarterback. And if you watch the Rutgers BC tape, they had a hard time stopping the Rutgers pass rush. They had 29 rushes for 29 yards or 28 for 29. They didn't run the ball. This is not the same BC type of team that Bud had to defend. They throw it. They only ran the ball 14 times. They've got a very inexperienced offensive line. At home, at night, I like the Hokies. Their offensive coordinator, Coach McNulty, I looked this up today. You'll hear about this on the broadcast tomorrow. Twice when he was the offensive coordinator at Rutgers, played Penn State in 2 games, 1 touchdown against Brent Pry. I think they have a sense of, now of course that was at Rutgers and he had Penn State's players, but I think defensively the Hokies are in good shape. Bud hit it on the head. It's the issue the Hokies have is they don't have a Zay Flowers, number 4 for Boston College. They don't have that one guy where let's get him the ball 12 times and maybe that'll be enough. But on defense, the Hokies are in really good shape. J.C. Price and that defensive line are doing a really good job. As long as the Hokies don't turn the ball over, I like Tech's chances tomorrow night.
You have an actual score prediction?
No, someone asked me that earlier. I don't know. The rain is what's kind of weird. Right. I don't think it'll be 10-0 in the fourth quarter like that game that you're talking about, why are we bringing that up?
I mean, there's parallels. You have to acknowledge that, right? Even Jeremy Counts, chagrin. I'm sorry, Jeremy. I'm sorry.
Do you know that the Hokies over the last 30 years have played BC more than any other team?
Things I did not know.
More, because not only have we played them every year, we played them twice. Regular season and then in the ACC championship game. So after this year, there's no more Coastal and Atlantic. BC will no longer be the Hokies' annual crossover opponent. Who here is disappointed to see the BC's annual game end? Bud, who's glad that the Hokies we don't have to play Boston College every year? I asked Mike Burnup that question. He said he's not mad that the series has ended, but he's going to miss the clam chowder. So we're going to work on that. We'll get some chowder flown in.
That's hilarious. Okay, so how many sports media and analytics students are involved in tomorrow's broadcast? Do you know?
Wow. Okay. In the broadcast, well, I know we'll have 2 of our students broadcasting the game. We'll have another student covering the game for our 3304 Sports Media platform. 3 or 4 collegiate time students are SMA majors, and tomorrow, I think we're going to have 9 of our students serving as runners for ESPN ACC Network. So they'll be pulling the cables, and you'll see a microphone on the sideline, or holding people back if we win the